ever wondered what life was like thousands of years ago? Well, the book of Leviticus in the Old Testament gives us a pretty wild glimpse. It's packed with rules for the ancient Israelites, covering everything from diet to fashion to social conduct. Some of these laws might seem bizarre to us today, but they were deeply significant back then, shaping their identity and their relationship with God. Today, we're diving into the top 10 weirdest laws from the book of Leviticus. These are the rules that make you scratch your head and go, wait, really? We'll explore what they said and try to understand the why behind them. From forbidden foods to questionable fashion choices, get ready for a fascinating journey back in time. Let's kick off our countdown at number 10. The ban on mixed fabrics. Leviticus 19:19 says, "You shall not wear a garment of cloth made of two kinds of material." That's right, no linen-wool blends. This might sound like a strange fashion rule, but it's part of a broader theme in Leviticus about keeping things separate and distinct. The ancient Israelites were commanded to be a holy, set-apart people. This law, along with others prohibiting mixing different kinds of seeds or animals, was a physical, everyday reminder of that principle. It was about purity and avoiding mixtures that were seen as unnatural or confusing the boundaries that God had established in creation. So, that poly-cotton blend t-shirt you love? It would have been a serious fashion faux pas. It wasn't about the fabric itself being bad, but about the symbolism of maintaining order and separation. Coming in at number 9 is a very specific grooming guideline. Leviticus 19:27 commands, "You shall not round off the hair on your temples or mar the edges of your beard." So, no trendy fades or sharp beard lines for the ancient Israelite man. This law is often interpreted in its historical context. Many of the surrounding pagan nations practiced specific hairstyles and beard-trimming rituals as part of their worship or mourning customs for their gods. For instance, some would shave their heads or beards in honor of a deity. By telling the Israelites not to do this, God was setting them apart from these pagan practices. It was another visual cue, a way of saying, "You are different. Your devotion is to me alone." It wasn't about aesthetics. It was about avoiding any association with idolatry. At number 8, we have a rule that might surprise a lot of people today. No tattoos. Leviticus 19:28 is very clear. "You shall not make any cuts on your body for the dead or tattoo yourselves. I am the Lord." Similar to the haircut rule, this was likely a response to the practices of neighboring cultures. In the ancient Near East, it was common for people to mark their skin as a sign of mourning, or as a way to dedicate themselves to a particular god. These markings could be tattoos, brandings, or ritual cuttings. For the Israelites, their bodies were considered a temple of the Holy Spirit, created in God's image. This law was a command to respect the body as sacred and not to deface it with symbols associated with pagan worship or death rituals. It was about declaring that their identity was found in God, not in markings on their skin. Next up, at number 7, we're heading to the dinner table, or rather, what's not on it. Leviticus 11:10 says that anything in the water that does not have fins and scales is detestable to you. This means no shrimp, no crab, no lobster, no clams, no oysters. Basically, the entire seafood platter is off limits. This is part of the extensive dietary laws, or kashrut, that distinguished the Israelites. The reason for these rules isn't explicitly stated, but scholars have a few theories. Some suggest it was for health and hygiene, as bottom-dwelling shellfish can be more prone to carrying toxins. Others see it as another symbolic rule about order. Creatures with fins and scales were the proper fish of the sea. Those without were considered anomalous, a chaotic mixture, and therefore unclean. It was a way of bringing order and holiness, even to the dinner plate. Staying in the kitchen for number 6, we have one of the most famous food laws of all: no pork. Leviticus 11:7-8 explains that while the pig has a divided hoof, it does not chew the cud, and therefore it is unclean. The Israelites were forbidden from eating its meat or even touching its carcass. This prohibition has become a defining feature of Jewish dietary law. Why the pig? Again, theories abound. Some point to health concerns, as pigs can carry parasites like trichinella, which could be deadly without proper cooking methods. Others argue it was a matter of cultural separation. Pigs were commonly raised and eaten by neighboring peoples and were sometimes used in pagan sacrifices. By forbidding pork, the law created a clear distinction between the Israelites and their neighbors. It was a constant, daily reminder of their unique covenant with God. At number 5, we find a prohibition that goes beyond fashion and food, right into farming. Leviticus 19:19 strikes again, stating, "You shall not let your cattle breed with a different kind. You shall not sow your field with 2 kinds of seed." This is a ban on crossbreeding animals and planting mixed seeds, known as kilayim. This law reinforces that central theme of separation and maintaining the distinct orders of creation. The idea was that God created each animal and plant according to its kind, as it says in Genesis. To intentionally mix them was seen as a violation of that created order, a human attempt to blur the lines that God had drawn. It was a powerful agricultural metaphor for the social and spiritual purity required of the Israelite people. They were to remain a distinct people and not mix with the idolatrous practices of the nations around them. Sliding into the number 4 spot is a very specific dietary rule: no fat and no blood. Leviticus 3:17 declares it a perpetual statute that the Israelites should eat neither fat nor blood. The prohibition against blood is repeated throughout the Old Testament. The reason is explicitly stated. The life of the flesh is in the blood. Blood represented life itself and was considered sacred, belonging only to God. It was used in sacrificial rituals for the atonement of sins, so consuming it was strictly forbidden. The ban on fat, specifically the fat surrounding the internal organs, is a bit different. This fat was considered the richest, best part of the animal and was reserved as a special offering to God on the altar. By giving up the fat and the blood, the Israelites were acknowledging that the best part of the animal and life itself ultimately belonged to their Creator. At number 3, we have a law that would make life pretty difficult for a lot of people. Leviticus 11:31 warns against touching the carcasses of various unclean animals. After listing creatures like weasels, mice, and lizards, it says, "Whoever touches them when they are dead shall be unclean until the evening." This state of ritual uncleanness meant you couldn't participate in religious ceremonies or enter the temple area until you went through a purification process. This wasn't about sin, but about contact with death. Death was seen as the opposite of life and holiness, which are attributes of God. This law served as a constant reminder of the separation between the holy and the profane, life and death. It created a tangible sense of caution and respect around things that were considered impure, reinforcing the overall goal of living a holy life, set apart for God. Our runner-up at number 2 is a stern warning against the supernatural. Leviticus 26 says that anyone who turns to mediums or necromancers, whoring after them, I will set my face against that person and will cut him off from among his people. This is one of the strongest prohibitions in the entire book. Why such a harsh stance? Because consulting spirits or trying to speak with the dead was a direct rejection of God as the sole source of wisdom, guidance, and power. It was a common practice in surrounding pagan religions, and for an Israelite to do it was considered a form of spiritual adultery. It was an act of turning away from their covenant relationship with God to seek answers from forbidden and what were considered deceptive sources. The law protected the unique relationship between God and his people, demanding total loyalty and trust. And finally, our number 1 weirdest and arguably most controversial law in Leviticus concerns physical requirements for the priesthood. Leviticus 21 lays out a long list of physical blemishes that would disqualify a descendant of Aaron from serving as a priest and offering sacrifices. This includes being blind, lame, having a crushed foot or hand, a hunchback, or even certain skin diseases. To our modern ears, this sounds incredibly discriminatory and unfair. However, in the context of the time, the physical perfection of the priest was seen as a reflection of the holiness and perfection of God, whom he represented. The altar and the sacrifices had to be perfect, and so did the priest who ministered there. It wasn't about the person's inner worth, but about the symbolic integrity of the sacrificial system. It was a visual representation of the absolute perfection required to approach a holy God. So there you have it, 10 of the strangest and most fascinating laws from the book of Leviticus. From clothing to food to haircuts, these rules governed every aspect of ancient Israelite life. While they may seem bizarre to us, they were packed with meaning, designed to set a people apart and teach them about holiness, order, and their unique relationship with God. They were physical reminders of a spiritual reality. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into ancient history. If you found this interesting, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more explorations into the fascinating stories of the past. See you next time.